demand for this particular positions in cybersecurity because there is a gap in the skill set. And this approach for this internship program is to reduce that gap, the bridge that gap, the knowledge gap which the candidates are facing, and that's the process. So how do we go about this process, right? What is the aim of this webinar? So cybersecurity, unlike a lot of other topics, right, it is going to be a bit different amount of right. So it is not going to be as easy to start off with, but once you start, it is as equivalent to any other subject of your choice, right? The main reason is that it is a bit of an the way it approaches is going to be a bit different. So that is the reason we have divided these internship program into 4 different parts initially, and then we're going to go on each and topic 1 week at a time. So in the first week, we are going to talk about security awareness, where we talk about, what exactly is the cybersecurity? What is that happens out here? And that is what we're going to look into that. What the companies are facing and what is the skill set shortage, and that is going to be there. In the second week, we're going to talk about penetration testing and infrastructure security, right? This is where we talk about penetration testing is what you call a diplomatic or an official word for hacking, and why hacking in a legal way for the applications is very important. And how can we secure our organization and their applications using hacking as a tool, right? The tool that is used by the bad people are going to be used by us to make sure to prevent any kind of infrastructure attacks that we are going to face. So the third part, the third week, we're going to look into DevSecOps, right? You might have already attended Debasisa's webinar on the DevOps, and you might have seen what are the advantages that it brings away and how it actually bridges the gap or makes the development more easier out there. DevSecOps is place where we are actually bringing the complexity of the security to lot less, similar to way we have reduced the time to market in DevOps project. We can do the same thing by adding security to that. How do we add an additional step into that? Then we are going to look into that. And fourth is going to be cloud security, right? Today, almost all any product you take, what we are going to use, it may be Netflix or it could be, Google or anything that you're going to use, even your company applications will be predominantly running on cloud, and it could be running on any of the major cloud providers like Azure, GCP, or the number one AWS. But there are security implications there as well. So what are the things from a security perspective that we have to look into that? We'll be looking from the cloud security perspective. The main point of dividing into 4 different parts is for you to introduce you to the security awareness. And from a job perspective as well, we see application security. There is multiple things or multiple skill sets are required, and we are covering a very broad range, right? So someone who is in the development stage or is in the development environment, who is running a DevOps environment, and who is going to be doing all these activities out there, right? So because predominantly we see a lot of companies today, small and medium scale businesses are moving towards cloud, they're moving over DevOps. They have a small team that has to be done by 1 or 2 people in cybersecurity. Unlike a large company, they will not have a very large security team, each doing individual activities. But it is a lot more smaller companies depend on few people out there, right? And we'll talk about that as we go down, right? So before we could attack, right, what is cybersecurity? What is that we are securing? We need to know what is an attack, right? So what is an attack basically? So you might have seen a lot of, I think it's becoming more and more normal these days. Every 1 or 2 days, you are going to see that there is an attack that has happened. You see, data is breached, we have lost customer information and things like that. What is exactly is that, right? So cyber attack is an intentional effort to steal, expose, alter, disable, or destroy data or application or other assets to unauthorized access to a network, computer, or digital evidence. So what we can take in a simplest way we can tell is that any kind of a digital resource, right? It could be a database, or it could be a server, or it could be a laptop, or it could be mobile. We're making some kind of a malicious activity on that, right? It does not entirely has to happen about stealing someone's data. It can also about stealing someone's data, deleting a data as well, right? Or making sure that they can't access their own data. Those are the things that comes into play in the cyber attack. Right. So one of the top profile we have seen is that the AT&T data breach recently, about 73 million people to say 51 million people. That is not exactly disclosed, right? The the amount of sophistication that happens out there, and companies are reluctant to disclose what exactly the information is there. In some news form, some places they're telling 70 million people, and some places they're telling 51 million people. And this is not something a recently attack, right? This attack took place in 2019, but it was disclosed recently by AT&T to the public. Why? Because the credentials of the user that was compromised started surfacing in different platforms on the dark web, right? Dark web is a place where a lot of malicious actors come together, where it is quite difficult for the law enforcement uh, to track them and to catch them or do any kind of an activity and those things, right? So AT&T is lost about 73 million customer data. LinkedIn also lost about 700 million users, right? So this user data is lost out there, right? And recently, Microsoft 2021, there was an attack on Microsoft. Here, it is not number of customers, it is the number of organizations that are affected here. More than 30,000 organizations have been affected here, right? And these are the different attacks that we could see. The one attack I think which has a huge impact and what people are not talking about is the Equifax 143 million, right? It more than half of or almost half of American population social security number was disclosed. And if you go through the attack, what exactly has happened out there, it is a pure negligence from the company, and they did not patch a server what exactly was supposed to be patched, or some security vulnerability was there, even though they did know that there was having an issue, they did very little to do about it. You know, by the time they could fix it, it was too late.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, sorry about that. Are you recording this?
Mena, I reckon.
I didn't get a notification say that we
It's
started
been recorded.
recording already.
Yeah, it's been recorded. Yeah.
Come again? One more time.
No, I was asking.
Is it
we
record?
started
Is
the
getting
recording.
recorded?
It's
Yes,
recording.
yes. Yeah.
It's recording.
Okay, sorry. Thanks.
No, that's fine.
No. Do you want me to record, Mena?
No, it is already, I have
It's
already
already
started.
recorded.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, one more attack I would like to add. It is it's not a confirmed news. I think most of the Microsoft News and other news channel, there is like a speculations in like 2 days before 911 outrage happened in 4 states, and most probably our possible cause was a cyber attack. The outrage is real, but the reason is not confirmed. But most of the news channel, they are telling there is a high chance that outrage has happened due to cyber attack.
Correct. So I think what we don't see here, so there is a lot of attacks that is happening. Number of attacks have picked up recently, especially after the Ukraine and Russian war, the war is going on. The attacks from the Russian side or from other Ukraine side is also picked up, right? And if you always look into these breaches, have you ever noticed that there is no bank that's getting breached out here, right? So this is not the case, right? So banks have an option according to the government regulations. Any company which gets hacked that needs to report the breach, and it should be made public after the breach has occurred. But whereas bank gets an exemption out here, right? Whenever they get, so the main reason for them is banks, if they get hacked and they had to disclose publicly. And so what people will do is that they think their money is not safe in the bank and they'll start pulling the money out of the bank. And that could be having much more deeper impact than the attack itself. So banks do have a little bit of leverage when it comes to disclosing, but they do constitute a large amount of money losing every year. I think it will be in terms of billions of dollars they lose due to cybersecurity every year. Right. So which that is very important. Those are cybersecurity breaches that is happening out there. Right. So, and there was one more breach very recently. So what happened was there was a company, they wanted to do a DOS attack. So we'll talk about DOS attack. So that is making the application render useless so that no one can use it. So, but the company had a very good cybersecurity feature out there, and they know how to protect it. DOS attack that's going to happen out there. So they could not be done with a small amount of devices. So what they did was there was a particular brand of IP cameras where people use this, CCTV cameras which are connected to the internet for monitoring the garage or the front of their house and things like that. There was a vulnerability in this particular camera, and they used this vulnerability to hack 1 million webcams all over the US. And they took control of all these webcams and they used it to attack that particular website, right? So that was a much more bigger impact. They have to stop all those things. So, but what is this, right? So we're talking about breach and things and all. What are the things that are the important security terms we need to know before going ahead with our process, right? Because we are going to talk about a lot of gaps and things like that. What is an attack vector and things like that. So what is an event, right? The three things that we need to consider is event, incident, and a breach, right? So event is something which someone is trying to hack you or someone is trying to break into your application and things like that. For instance, let's say someone takes up knows who is what is your Gmail ID or your public email ID and go to that particular website and enter a password for that, right? Randomly they start trying out a couple of passwords for that. They are not able to get inside, but still that is an attack on your email, right? And that kind of an approach is called as an event, right? Where there is an attempt is made, nothing is work. There is no attack is not going to be successful. In an organization perspective, we can see is that someone is trying to run an exploit or someone is trying to run a network scanner on things like that, and process is going to they're trying to break into the application, right? Someone is trying to crack into the company Wi-Fi network, try to break what is the check, what is the password for it. Those things are going to be present out there. An incident is something where an hacker is able to get bypass some kind of a security, right? But there is no data loss. It could be possible that, for instance, someone is able to bypass or crack the company's Wi-Fi network and got inside the network, but they could not get any kind of information, right? So this is what we call as an incident where there is an attack that is happened. There is a certain degree of success to that, but there is no loss of any kind of an information or any kind of an impact on the company organization. Security is not impacted. So that we can call it as an incident. And finally, breach is what we have seen all this time, where we lose data, where we lose track of certain, deleted the data is deleted and things like that. Right. So because deletion is also one of the major problems that we have seen. I think in one of the directors for FBI cybercrime division was speaking in a conference. He told recently they were working on a case where a company existed on Friday, but it did not exist on Monday. Right. So what exactly happened was hackers got into the company on Saturday and they deleted everything. There was absolutely nothing Their backup was deleted, their main data was deleted. They did not have any information, complete wipeout, nothing else was there, and they could not continue, right? Those are the problems that we face. So what are the major types of attacks that we see, right? One is a web application attack, right? So this is the most common application attacks we see, and this is quite straightforward. We usually try to break an application, web application, predominantly to steal some kind of a data. And once you're done with that, you are out of that, right? It is not much. Most of the attacks breaches what we see is predominantly a web-based approach and attack, and that is going to be there. And almost any company today you see, it may be a large organization or a small organization or a medium organization, will always have a web application running, and they'll be running some kind of services out there, right? They could be managing their staffing, they could be managing their client information and other things that is there. The second part is denial of service attack. So you might have seen, right? So in some websites are slow on one particular days, and sometimes it is going to be much faster. It is basically is about the traffic the server is able to handle, is how it's going to handle it. So for instance, in an what do you call, I can take a server, try to send a lot of traffic to that. I can generate, as an hacker, we'll have tools for running kind of scenarios out there where I can send a lot of packets in a particular way that will actually exhaust the server resources, and it will prevent from having an communicating properly, right? And this happened in real time as well, right? There was a company called Flipkart in India. They had a sale, what big billion day sale. The first time they did. So what happened was they launched, there was going to be a single day where there's going to be huge discounts, right? It's an online marketing place, a marketplace like Amazon, right? So they told they're going to have a huge discount on everything. On the day of the sale, they were hit by DDoS attack and their application was down by 4 hours, right? By the time they could get everything up and running, meaning they got flooded with requests. The server was not able to manage any of it. Here, there is nothing has happened out there. There is no data is lost, data is not deleted, but the normal operation is compromised here. And this led to a lot of issues. In terms of revenue loss for that 4 hours, I think it was about 400 million they lost in that in revenue in that 4 hours. And remember, they can't do it for the second, right? So they learned from that mistake. So when they came out for the next time, they divided the sale for a week's time. Instead of having one single day having an outage, DOS attack could lead that they could lose a lot of customers and a lot of business. That made it and a 1 week festival, right, where they could buy and the huge discount is there. And every day there's a different category that comes into play. But what they did in the background was they put up in a lot of other efforts, security measures to prevent this kind of an attack. There were separate appliances for denying or managing DOS and other things for that. And finally, there's the system intrusion. So here, what we're trying to do is that we're trying to take control of the server. What an administrator would do is that we are trying to assume that administrator are trying to own everything, right? So for instance, in a web application is bit limited because the data is going to be only for that one particular application, only for that. It may be again, that's going to be limitation to what is going to be there. But your server may be hosting multiple websites. Think about GoDaddy as the website hosting portal. Where do you think they're going to have a single server for each and every website? People are going to be there. So many millions of websites have been registered on GoDaddy, and do you think we'll have a one-on-one ratio? That is not the case, right? But they'll be having a one server where they are launching multiple web applications from there or multiple websites from there. Okay? So what if I can compromise the server itself, right? When I compromise the server itself, it is going to I'm not able to compromise one single application. I can compromise a lot more other applications also. Similarly, in an organization, the network is going to be there, and there are a lot more other servers that are going to be there, and a lot of other activities, juicy information that could be used, right, by the company. So that is going to be look into that. We have seen, right, there's always a financial importance for that.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, for the denial of service, right?
Yes.
You made mention, you gave an example of something that happened in India. So, if peradventure you have multiple users at the same time, which can possibly bring down the network, can we consider that as an attack or not?
No, that will be, see, both of them will, denial of service is nothing but a service outage itself, right? Uh, for instance, let's say there is an Apple server, right? So on a particular day, any of the major artists will release a particular album and there's an initial hit, right? It's an instant hit. So a lot of people will start trying to connect to Apple Music Store and trying to download that. And if Apple does not have enough resources, that is going to prevent, right? It is going to crash the server. And that is it. It is exactly the same thing is happening in DOS attack as well, right? There's a service outage is happening, but in DOS attack, the difference is it is done illegally. It is been done with intent to saturate the server. So there is, so that is the one of the main reasons preventing DOS attack is so difficult, because it is actually a legitimate traffic that is sent to the server, the request, right? So for instance, if you're trying to download, let's say if I create 1,000 bots and trying to download music from Apple Store, Music Store, App Store, sorry, Apple Music at the same time, that is going to prevent that same kind of a situation is going to happen. So there's no difference between a system saturation and DOS attack. The only thing is the principle or what the reason behind that. What is the intent for that, right? In a normal saturation, more people are trying to connect to that, and that could lead to saturation. And a DDoS attack, DOS attack, people are there's an intentional traffic has been sent to server to compromise the system or the resource. Right. And even for the Indian, the example I gave you for the Indian website, they never officially disclose it as a DOS attack, right? They always tell us that because the sale was so high, a lot of people connected at the same time. So that was the reason given being to that. But but there's always reasoning behind that, right? So I gave you one more example before that, right? Whereas multiple IP CCTV cameras were attacked in US and they did that, use those IP cameras, million IP cameras to do a DOS attack. Yeah. Is it fine?
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's look at the patterns that we are seeing, because this patterns makes a difference, right? Why is the process, what we are seeing out there, what is the industry moving towards, and everything depends on this, what is happening, right? So you could see here in this pattern, the denial of service, basic web application, and system intrusion are the most common attack vectors that we have seen here. Social engineering is something, and privilege miscellaneous misuse is predominantly is gone down significantly, where people are trying to gain access to by tricking into doing some activity, or people are using uh, the privilege to that you could take it as a disgruntled employee who's trying to take while leaving the company, trying to take the data out of it of the company and going out of there. And you can see there's a significant drop. So you don't see it much often these days. But see here, it is you have to look at here, it's a pattern of incident, right? There is no breach that we are looking at, but most of the attacks that we are seeing nowadays is going to be DOS attack. And this is why we are seeing quite common these days is because cloud infrastructure is booming, right? And what happens is that the hackers or the malicious actors were trying to compromise right? For trying to compromise, what they do is that one of the major problems with DOS attack is that they might get caught. They can be traced and doing the attack. So what they do now is that they're very much sophisticated, and they use very simple tactics. They take a stolen credit card information, create an account in AWS, and use those AWS instances to launch the DOS attack, right? And it is not that one or two devices that are going to be used. They're going to create hundreds of instances in AWS and launch attack on them. And this is also, it's running as a denial of service as a service, right? So whereas hackers are getting paid to do their DOS attack on the, and a lot of companies are paying hackers to do DOS attack on their competitors. When they're launching a particular product, they want to disrupt that process. They're doing all kinds of applications. Right? System intrusion recently it has gone up, and the number of products that we are using, number of vulnerabilities that are coming up in these applications have gone up, right? So that we see web application is gone down slightly. The main reason for that web application is we are seeing in a reduction is that the more companies are, getting more into securing their web applications. There is an active awareness that is going on. They need to get more people into cybersecurity and things like that. And that is where we see, right? So where we are seen out there. But we still see the breaches happening, because we could see here, you can see denial of service is something which is not going to, cause a breach. It is going to prove a service is not available to everyone. But where we are seeing is the system intrusion, because they're using a vulnerability to get into the system, trying to compromise one system into another system and things like that. And web application is always a major attack, and it is actually it is supposed to be much higher, but because of the security interventions, what we are seeing out in the recent time is what we are seeing it is there. And social engineering is basically what we see is the phishing attack, where people are forced into or tricked into giving out their credentials, right? So a system intrusion is what we see, right? It is basically people are not patching the systems out there and trying to gain access is what is going to happen out there, right? This is a major issue, right? Social engineering in the future, in the near time, in the coming years, it is going to be much more higher, because the phishing mails and phishing approach is getting much more sophisticated. Because I remember we did a phishing attack. It was a company. They reached us. They tell we want to check out how our employees are, how good they are at not clicking the phishing emails and things like that, and how good is the security awareness. So we did, rather than sending a random phishing mail to them, we did a lot of research from our end. We saw what is the geolocation of those companies where those employees were. And what we did was we looked at what are the recent restaurants that are there nearby. And we started sending out gift vouchers for those restaurants, right? Cash vouchers and discount vouchers and things like that. And you will not remember, because we ran a phishing attack sometime earlier and we saw the company people did not click on any of the links. But as soon as it became a bit more local, the information was a bit more accurate to them where they're working, you could see a lot more people connecting to that, right? And also we also tried trying to give them a login screen which is very much similar to the company's login screen, and we saw people entering their credentials as well, right? Those is what is a major problem that we will see social engineering is one of the major problems that we will face in the near term. So because system intrusion and web application attacks, we will see a reduction is what I feel. Okay. So this is what we talk about is the pattern, right? Pattern and what is in the cyber attack and things like that. So what exactly is security? What is a cybersecurity? Cybersecurity is how do we protect our resources, digital resources and things like that.
Karthik,
And how do we? Yeah.
Sorry for interruption before you start another module. So Bidemi asked one question. Can you give some more example on social engineering attack?
Yeah, some social engineering attack. Uh, it is going to be like, let's say, one of the ways we try to crack someone's user password is trying to look into their what is your password process approaches? How do you set up your passwords, right? It may be basically most of the time it is going to be the first few characters of a name, a particular date, and it could be something like that, right? So if you go into someone's social information, right, look into their social online social behavior, look into their Facebook, look into their Instagram, right? So all those things, right? You will be posting your birthday pics whenever you have. So I got your date of birth. Probably you'll put up in geolocation tagging where you are spending your time with your family, and you may put a one time you put geolocation spending time at home with the family. So I got your address out there, and you may be putting out work where you're going to work on your Insta post or Facebook or all those things. You will be surprised at the amount of information that we can collect from a user, right? So I remember sometime back when I did my master's, my thesis was basically on Google search and how intrusive they are, right? Where I collected about search history for a particular person for a couple of like a lot of candidates. And if you look out for the 15 days or 20 days search history for a particular person, amount of information get to know about them is so high, right? And that is one way of looking into that. And one more way of knowing social engineering is trying to interact with the people, right? So there are cases certain times where there's solid red teaming, where we give a lot of importance, right? When the customer who's working on a very critical projects, they want to see how the employees are behaving. So we would probably see, we go and interact with the employees in a cafe or anything, try to get information about them and talk to them about that. We'll try to see, okay, what kind of a technology they're working on, that are they going to disclose those information? And those also things can become into social engineering, right? In terms of breaches, this is something what is from a breach perspective, right? And we, in some cases, we will go to an organization, pose as an employee, and try to get in, right? So one of the ways we could do is that try to, don't use a jacket and tell that you forgot your jacket in the office, and then you try to go and meet the security, and then he will buzz you inside. And that's the reason in some places where they will tell them, if you forget your card, the manager has to come down and pick you up from there, and he has to watch for that. And again, you have to come back later and do that, because that has happened in real time. And that has happened in real time as well. And I could remember that one of my colleagues, when we did the social engineering attack on a bank, he got in, he posed as an employee in one after the other, one after another. It led to him going and sitting in the main server room itself that is there in the vault. And all of a sudden, everyone, security guard, with they come blazing inside and things like that, and they're trying to attack him. He told, relax, call this person. And he was the chief security officer for that particular bank. And he told, this is a drill, and you guys have let someone inside, right? That was in a big day for them, for the bank people. Not for us, it was fun, but for them, it was not, right? So that's a simple examples of social engineering, right? The more thing we are going to lose your credentials is going to be online, trying to click on links that is not belong, we should not click to, right? So cybersecurity is how do you protect, right? So what is the protection? There's multiple. See, you might have seen cybersecurity is basically is about layers of security. There is no one single approach to this, and there's not one single solution for this, right? For us in cybersecurity, people, we always look from an onion perspective. Just like an onion has multiple layers, security is also supposed to have multiple layers to that. And main reason that being is that If someone is telling you we will give you 100% security, you don't have to worry, they're completely lying. They're trying to sell you a snake oil for that. Because security is never going to be 100% secure. People who want to break into your system, they'll always find a way to break into your system, right? So only thing that we can do is to make it more difficult, make it really, really hard, where it has to be very difficult. Where you have to be very, very talented to get into the company, into the site and breach it. That is what the process is all about, right? What do you mean by multiple layer of security? For instance, let's take a simple analogy from your side itself. Let's say you have a gold ornaments, right? So what you're going to do, you're going to put it in a safe inside your cupboard. Since it is inside a safe inside the cupboard, are you not going to lock your cupboard? Are you not going to lock your room door? Are you not going to lock your house when you're going out? Because you think it is safe inside the cupboard, so I don't have to worry about it, right? So we don't do that. We lock other things as well. We lock the door, we lock the room door. Probably we might add one more extra lock to that as well. So what it's going to do here is that it is not going to prevent a skilled thief here. It is going to extend the time where you might have time to react to that time, right? Probably it'll take more time. You'll get alerted by that time and you'll be able to take necessary evasive actions for that. Similarly, in cybersecurity, there are multiple layers, right? In a typical large organization, you may be thinking when you connect to a web application like in Facebook or Gmail or anything, you're directly connecting to the server. But in fact, you're hopping through multiple devices out there or multiple appliances. One of the main things that you'll go through is your firewall. And again, there could be something called as a web application firewall, which are different out there. There's something called as a load balancer. It could be there. There's an antivirus of server that is there. Just like your desktop is having an antivirus, your system servers will also have an antivirus, because whenever you upload a file into server, right? When you're uploading an email, an attachment file, can you upload a virus to that as well? Right? It will not allow, because there's an antivirus software out there. So those are the different approaches and different layers for that. And it is multiple places, and that what makes security so interesting, that it is an ongoing process, and it's quite fun as well, right? So, and one of the reasons why it is very critical, right? Why the job brings in a lot of responsibility, but also the impact you have on the company, the organization, is very high, right? For instance, we had an application in for while I was working as a pen tester for one of the top Middle Eastern banks. So they had an iPad application, and that particular iPad application is only meant for millionaires. There is a minimum deposit requirement in millions before that particular application can be used by that particular customer. It basically, that application did not have anything much information. It is just gives a stock update information for that, right? Where these rich people will be able to invest money in more products of the bank. But when we tested it, that had a vulnerability, and we told no, that cannot be used until you fix the vulnerability. And that product launch got delayed by 10 days. So that delay was a huge impact, because they lost millions of rupees delayed in investment. So think about, from an interest perspective, how much money they would have lost as a bank when they're not able to use an application and allow their investors to invest more money or deposit more money into the bank. And we had to stand our ground out there, telling that we are not going to give ahead. Even after they're telling, it went all the way up to CISO, Chief Information Security Officer for the bank. And we told no, that cannot be done. And we told them we are not going to take responsibility for that and things like that. And they told, okay, we'll try to fix it. So, but we helped them fix it. We told them what are the places we fixed, but that is the impact you had. right? You are the sole defense person out there. Your team is responsible for keeping the organization on foot. So what are the three things that we need to secure, right? Confidentiality, availability, and integrity. Confidentiality, in a simple ways, we can talk about is, making sure only legal authorized people are able to view your data. No one else is able to view your data. For instance, your emails in your Gmail, only you should be able to view your emails and no one else should be able to view that. If others are able to view without your permission, that is a breach of confidentiality. And integrity is basically changing the data or update. Update also means deleting of it as well, right? So this has happened in recent times where attackers have tried to change your mobile number on the bank accounts. When they steal or when they compromise the bank account, they try to change the customer banking details as well along with the phone. Why? Because all your OTP, one-time password during a transactions come to your mobile phone. And by changing that mobile number to their number, they will be able to do the transaction on their own. And availability is just that making sure that it is related to DOS attack, making sure that users are able to use it without having any kind of an issue, right? Availability, why I tell it is related, it's not full part, is that we can compromise the user. We can make sure that some user cannot access their system as well by entering the wrong password multiple times, where we have seen, right? Where we have seen when we were pen testing a particular application, one of the clients, we told that there is no security mechanism, right? Anyone is able to enter the wrong password any number of times. But they told they implemented it. So they told that every time someone enters the 3 wrong passwords and their account gets locked. The problem, what happened was the administrator was getting a lot of calls, right? Because a lot of people were not doing it and a lot of people were compromising their someone else also. They would intentionally put someone's email ID and enter wrong passwords to just to lock their accounts. That will also constitute denial of service or denial of availability as well. In this situation, what we gave is that you use a solution similar to your mobile phone, right? You might have seen if you enter a wrong PIN to unlock your mobile or wrong 5 or 4 or 5 times, your phone gets locked. And how long that is get locked? It gets locked for about 5 minutes. And after that, you can retry for that. Similarly, we gave the same option for the web application team as well, and they were able to fix it, right? So, and they started monitoring who was trying to enter the wrong passwords as well. Those things were there. CIA triad is fundamental block of cybersecurity, and one or any of 3 gets breached, it isn't called as is compromised, is confidentiality is compromised, or availability is compromised, or integrity is compromised, it will be called as the security breaches, right? In some cases, there could be an availability or integrity is there, but where there is a complete breach, it is called as all 3 will be gone. So the hacker will be able to look at all the data, will be able to modify any data, and it can prevent users from accessing their site as well, right? So that is what it constitutes. Any questions in CIA triad? Okay. So authentication and authorization. These are the 2 other. Thank you. So authentication and authorization, right? So authentication is just who you are, and authorization is what you are, right? So here we're talking about your username and password in authentication. So when you enter a particular username and password, you are identifying yourself to that application, who you are, right? Let's say if I'm logging into my login portal for the application, my company's application. So I would give my name, Karthik, and the password as something, whatever, which I've spelled as well. So when I do that, the application knows, okay, this is Karthik. and this is an employee for that. This could be very much similar to your school ID card, right? Your college ID card, where when you get to the gate of the college or campus and you show the ID card to the security personnel out there, and you look into that and he will allow you to get inside. Right? Authorization is you're already there in the system, right? But what is the data you're allowed to see? Right? This could be in many different ways. Let's say there could be a manager. A particular manager for a company is responsible. Let's say we'll take up a marketing manager for a McDonald's, right? A marketing manager for a McDonald's in Washington state should not have access to a marketing manager, California state marketing manager data, right? So that is what authorization is about. So making sure you're inside the organization or inside the application, but you should making sure that you only access data that belongs to you and no one else has access to that. Right. Simple example in real time you can see is that you may get inside a campus, college campus, and you can't get inside to any department in that. If you are in computer science department, you can only get inside the computer science department, but you can't go to the medical department or zoological department or geographical department. You can't get into that without a permission for you to get inside. That's how it is. Or you might have seen in an IT company or anything, you might get inside a building, but you will not be going to access all the floors in that building, right? You'll be only able to access the floor where you're working. And that is how the process goes. So that's authentication and authorization. Right. The next topic here is going to be unauthorized access. Right. So same thing here. So who is not able to access a particular data? Whenever someone accesses a particular data, that constitutes an unauthorized access. For instance, let's say you're a normal, it could be done by anyone. It could become done by a manager, company user, and hacker. And we have seen in a day-to-day, when we're testing a lot of applications, we see there's a lot of unauthorized access. We check for unauthorized access. Is it possible or not? Right? It could be an admin privilege who's having an users to that, or it could be doing some kind of a major activity that is going to be there, or an approval process, right? A HR maybe there will be a HR department, but not everyone will be able to credit salary or increase the salary information for all the employees. So what if I'm able to access that particular user information, make changes to the data, right? Or what if I can, a normal user who does not have rights to add more login information can make that information changes. Those things comes under unauthorized access, right? So end of the day, it is always about what is that entire process that is happening out there, right? Whatever the security system, there's a firewall, there's a web application firewall. We're doing penetration testing, checking the application is safe or not. There's a security operations center. We are constantly monitoring the devices out there. Why are we doing it? We're doing it making sure the CIA is not compromised, right? Confidentiality, integrity, availability is not compromised, or your authentication authorization process is not compromised, right? That is what the main process. So you take any attack, which will come into this process, right? At the same time here, we should also have something for an accountability as, right? So it is proves that a particular action was done by a particular person itself, and he cannot tell that I did not do that, right? So this happened. What happened was in one company, there was a large database. An employee deleted it unintentionally, but he got to know about that he deleted it, but he did not do anything about that. He did not inform anyone or anything. He just kept quiet. And the next day when the team came in and saw they're not able to function properly because the data is missing, right? It is not working out. And this happened a long time back and they could not do anything. They asked everyone, no one told we have not done anything. But in the end, what happened was the server had a lock So whenever data was deleted, the application was configured in such a way, it will store the person's ID who deleted the data, right? And when they saw that, and they finally confronted the user that this was the ID, and they were able to tag him to that particular machine itself using the CCTV camera as well. So then he told, yes, it was deleted by him accidentally. And luckily they could, restore it. They had a backup for that. But this could have been, this is a common scenario where people will tell they will not own up to the mistakes done by them. And this is also the case in phishing attack, right? A lot of times we do a lot of investigation post an incident, and we see that particular employee would have given up the username and credentials, company username, in a phishing attack, thinking it's a legitimate page, and you enter the username and password. And immediately after that, you would have known about that, right? But you would have not done anything out there. So how do we prevent is accountability, right? So that's how it goes. So these are the major things that we need to secure, and this is the process that we do. But what is the motive behind such kind of an attack, right? What is the motive behind? Why do hackers go this way? Why do they steal information or do kind of an activities? We look into that. Any questions till now? Till CIA, authentication and authorization? Okay. So one of the main reasons is financial gain, right? Financial gain is almost 90% is what I feel, right? People are hacking, and the DOS attack or whatever you see them, few years back, WannaCry ransomware. Ransomware is basically about extorting money from the organization. This is basically done. So whenever they compromise your data and everything, it is sold online to the highest bidder. And we saw the AT&T 2019 hack was coming into light because someone was selling that in customer information data online. So one of the main reasons why it makes it could be a ransomware where they will lock you out of your system, and they will allow you inside your own server only after you pay the certain amount of money. And this has happened in real time, right? This happens on everyday basis. I think there was a small county police department where they got locked out in US of their own system, where they store information about criminals and things, and they could not go to court and prove the criminal is guilty because their evidence is locked up inside that, right? They got hit by a ransomware. They end up paying ransom and got the data back, and they have been done. This has happened a lot, right? That is one place. Credential, your banking fraud, people trying to gain access to your bank details or trying to tricking you into making a payment, right? One more example of social engineering attack in a banking perspective is, yeah, is that, usually you're going to make your internet bill payment or any kind of a payment, electricity bill payment on a particular date, and that's going to be stipulated for that part of time. And you will get an SMS or a link that you missed the payment. Can you make the payment in this link or things like that, right? So similarly, that is what you get. So for me, it happened for me. So every month, the bill due date is going to be on 15th. And I got a message that I got a message on 14th telling that you forgot to pay your bill. This is the link, please pay, right? So probably I would, even though me being in cybersecurity and that, even though I would have clicked on it, the reason I did not click on it is I was not using that particular internet service provider. I was using another internet service provider out there. And how many people do this? They are going to spread this account amount. Same SMS is going to be sent to thousands of people out there. for doing it. And it also, one more example is QR code scanning for sending money. In India, we use something called as an UPI payment, where you do an online transaction, and even for the smallest vendor, right? So there's a QR code which you scan and then you pay money for that. And one of these vendors, someone put up a fake or a different QR code scanner, and every time the people are making transfer to an other account, that is the problem. And one of the second reasons is activist, right? So activist, basically this we see more predominantly from an oil companies whose website gets hacked and they are defaced. There is no data loss of anything here, right? But it is predominantly, I think, Shell petrol bunk, Shell company, oil company was website was hacked, defaced, and new images of oil leakage, oil spillage in the ocean was put in there as well. Those kind of a thing that comes into play, right? Espionage is basically people trying to get into someone's, copyrighted information, getting into that, trying to get your, what data your competitors are working on, what is the product details or anything like that. Information can be stealing those kind of information, right? We might have seen it could be cybersecurity is just not about, always about a data in digital format. It could also mean any kind of a data, right? So if you follow Formula One, right? Formula One is an car racing event which happens all over the world, predominantly in Europe. And a person was working for Ferrari and he moved to a competitor team. They had a very stringent approach to security because the technology there is very sophisticated and they don't want to do that. So what the person was, when he wanted to move to a competitor, he wanted to take the data. So what he did was he took a single or couple of Xerox or photocopies of the data he wanted to take out every day and moved out of it. And he did it for a very long time, consistently for about couple of months, right? So if you're taking about 10 pages or 4 pages, and over the course of 100 days or 3 months or 4 months, he would have got about 400 pages worth of information out of it, and without raising a suspicion, right? But he got caught because someone tried to leak that this information was being leaked by that. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been. The company Ferrari was not able to track this information. That also constitutes an espionage. And personal revenge, yeah, we are seeing that people, it is a bit more prevalent these days, mainly because, people having a bad relationship, they go out and they want to get back at the people out there. They try to hack their laptop, they try to take their personal videos, post it online, and do all those activities out there. That is the main thing. The one thing that no one talks about is national security, right? National security are the offensive teams, right? So we're not talking about hackers who are going to prevent your company, your national assets. No, these hackers are designed to break your enemy infrastructure, right? The impact they are going to have is very, very high. And we have seen it, right? We have seen it. There was a Stuxnet virus that compromised the Iranian uranium enrichment plant. And that particular attack was done by US and Israel combined together. And that was a very genius hack. If you go and check it out online out there. Now, the impact it has, they have is very high. And they get, it is, you might be thinking in terms of salary and packages and government organizations don't give. In this case, that is not the case. Yeah. Main reason is that national security teams will not have a budget. They have their budget. They can do whatever they want. The money will keep flowing. Example, when cybersecurity professionals who are passing out were really talented, NSA are going to sit down and wait for other companies to give them an offer, right? They will wait for Google to give them an offer. They'll wait for Microsoft to give them an offer, and they'll come in finally and double that offer, right? So that is right, and their impact is very high as well. So think about what if, right? What if a nuclear power plant is cyber attack and they can do a meltdown of a nuclear reactor? Or what if we can open the gates, right? Your dam gates are going to be computerized, there's no manual operation. There's no one person opening the gate. There is a computer that is deciding how much gate should be opened or not. What if we can hack that computer out there and open the dam gates, right? And this can be done in wartime. How do you impact, right? What if I shut down the power plant? And this has happened. This has happened. We see, right? We are seeing this happening in Ukraine and Russia is trying to take control in different ways, right? And this happens. So these are one of the main motivations, why an attacker comes into play. Most of them is going to be financial gain, right? And things like that, right? So who are these bad actors? So most of the time, in the olden times, it was an individual, right, that was doing this kind of an activity. And we've already spoken about nation state that's going to be there. But we don't know, what people don't know is then organized crime. Whatever the major attacks you are seeing when we saw in the breach and things like that, this attack did not occur in a couple of minutes time. In the movies, what we see is that when a hacker sits in out there, okay, sees the server and he breaks into that online in a couple of minutes, that does not occur, right? On an average, a attack could take. So what are the major attacks we saw? The timeline for an attack, the day they started and they completed the attack, would go somewhere between, on a bare minimum time, it will go within 100 days is the minimum amount of time they would have spent. And they go all the way up to 6 months to 8 months or even 9 months of time, right? So that is going to, because this, you will need specialized skill set. And you will have different hackers specializing in different kind of an attack vectors. There will be hackers who are good at the initial stages, who was good at collecting information, understanding how it's working and things like that. And there will be hackers who are going to be good at web application. There'll be hackers who are good at database. How do we extract that? And there'll be hackers whose going to be main job is to, because once you hack, you have to make sure that you don't show that you have been hacked, right? Because if someone knows they are hacked, they're going to try to fix it. So that should not happen out there, because they want to continue to control that information. They need to do that. So all those things are done by individuals, and as a group that can also be difficult to manage by the individuals, right? Whereas an organized crime, it is how they do it. So what you're seeing in phishing, email attacks, and whatever things that is going to be there. There's a huge syndicate. And you will be surprised, they run better than most IT companies. They will have a project manager, they will have a department, separate department for different type of attacks, and they would put any major IT company, IT teams to shame the way they operate. Right. So organized crime is the money laundering and everything is going to happen out there. So these are the different bad actors that we'll see. We don't see them these days. We don't see individuals behind the major attacks, right? They don't, because individuals don't have the resources to pull it off. It takes a lot more than that for it. So the money, initial funding money for that can also be done by organized crime or nation state. So as I told, okay, fine. So these are the different attack vectors that are there, different actors that are there. But what is the solution? How do we go about solving this kind of an attack vector, right? So what is the approach is there is to have, it is more than blocking that, right? So we need to look at different cybersecurity tools that can aid us in the process. It also process deals about how do we deal with the process, how we are doing our day-to-day activity, how do we change that process, right? So, and then one of the main reasons we see is in DevSecOps opportunity and CI/CD pipeline. It is completely changing the security process, right? Previously, the attack after the application was designed and completed, we used to check out any security flaws in that. Nowadays, we're changing the process. It is making sure that the even the design phases will be large security to that. And how do we about the people is basically about how do we make them security aware. There's a regular security awareness program which talk about and tell them what are the security vulnerabilities they could be susceptible to, how do they prevent that, and what are the things that is going to be there, right? So one of the examples for that is that making sure you don't have any critical information in your mobile phone, like photographs. Photographs, not only personal photographs, it also a lot of people do take a photograph of their cards, their credit card or debit card, a copy of it, they will have it in their mobile phone or their, personal identification information on phone in their that could also, right? Whenever you're installing an app, it will ask, it wants access to the device locate storage for that. And any app that could be installed in your system in a mobile phone can look into your uh, photo details, right? There can get happen. This has happened, right? So what if, BCDR is nothing but business continuity and disaster recovery solution, right? This is the inevitable approach. This is the inevitable approach, meaning you have been compromised and the data is lost. What do you want to do? What is the plan after an attack? So that is what comes into play. And assessment is nothing but you're making sure a penetration testing, you're validating what the security that is being given by you is adequate, and the bad actors or malicious actors are not able to compromise your system. Some kind of a proof that is going to be there. Right? So what is the cyber threat history now? So this is where we see how the attack vectors have evolved over time. In the early stages of internet and things like that, one of the main things, how would you lose data is someone coming inside your company, right? They could take the server and run away. That has happened in real time. And there was also something called as a dumpster diving, right? People, when you throw away your old records in the garbage, people would go through your garbage and look at the information, collect information out there. And later it moved on to denial of service attacks, right? And then we saw an email attack. The payload or the attack vectors are being sent via email, tricking people into clicking on links there's not needed for that, right? And most recently, we are seeing something related to malware attacks. Malware attack is one of the reasons we think what are the attacks that is happening in large organization. People end up downloading some kind of a malware software, which is keyloggers, where it can log your keystrokes, where it will capture your password, username and password. Or, I mean, when you are in the pen testing course, we'll talk something about a reverse shell, right? So reverse shell, a malware is something which will create a backdoor for you, for the hackers to gain access to that, right? So that is one of the reasons why you should never use an pirated software, is that because this softwares could be compromised when you might install it for free and be able to use it. But there's a drawback to that. That information, it could be tracking all your activities, including your webcam, right? Including your webcam. And without your knowledge, it is collecting and it can be used to blackmail you or take out your banking details and things like that. Botnet attacks is nothing, it's new. Once, let's say, you can think about someone uses an email attack to send you a malware, and when you click on malware, you become a bot, right? That can also be one of the things that could malware do is it will create it, right? So what it is going to do is that it is going to use your system, right? It is going to use your system to do an attack, right? Attacker will, if you, when your system is compromised, compromised and it becomes a bot, attacker will not directly do an attack from his machine, but he is going to instruct your machine to do the attack, right? That is there. And social attacks that we see in much more phishing level that we're going to see there. And recently we are seeing AI assisted attacks on the rise. It is in the early stages where we're using AI technology to hack and we're getting some information and things like that. But it is going to be, we are going to see much more prevalent. And what happens is that it is going to make it much more easier for a low skilled hacker to do a good attack, right? So at the moment, there are different tiers of hackers. They are in entry level or noob or script kiddie who knows how to replicate an attack what is there. And there are elite hackers who come up with their own attack vectors, right? There is a gap out there. But AI is actually helping someone do better hacks and things like that. And that's how it is going to be there. But what are the different security mechanisms that could be there? We saw about the process and things like that. So what else is needed, from a product perspective, what products that needs to be present out there? So for a fire, physical security logs are important. And it is very much important as well. From a compliance perspective, there's a compliance requirement called ISO 27K, right? 27001. There is the requirement if you're storing a customer information in a particular server, there is a requirement. How do you physically secure that server? That server room should be locked and it should have a certain grade of lock. You cannot use a normal lock. It should be of a higher quality lock. And again, the key management has to be locked. So meaning who is going to be having access to that key for opening that room door or the server room need to be there. And there should be a registry should be maintained who is accessing that server room as well. All those information that need to be kept as well, right? It has happened in recent times as well, where people have come in and they've just taken the server out of this in this room and then gone out, right? So those are the things that is very much key. And firewall is basically right. So this is an evolution of what we are seeing out there. First physically security was given, and then from a network security perspective, firewalls was introduced, making sure that not unnecessary actors are inside the network. Only legitimate actors are able to do those kind of things. So then when we started securing networks on firewall, hackers came in a different way, right? They started using malware for that. So how do we prevent the malware? We started using antivirus, right? Once we started using antivirus and started using firewall, they had less attack surface. So what they did at that time, they started attacking web application and the other networks looking for vulnerabilities for that. So in order to prevent that, what we security person started doing pen testing, started checking any vulnerabilities in advance and to prevent that kind of an attack. So now what happened? An hacker, a bad actor is not able to physically access it because it's locked, is not allowed inside the network because there's a firewall in play, is not able to send malicious code or malicious software because there's an antivirus, it is preventing it, and is not able to hack their applications as well because there's a pen test has been done and all the loopholes or vulnerabilities are fixed. So what is the next way of going about? How does an actor get in? So next way is about phishing attack, right? So we can trick people into clicking on links and things like that. So how do we overcome that? Using SAT. SAT stands for Security Awareness Training. When you properly train people about how do you look for phishing mail, how do you verify a particular mail is right or wrong, and how do you know whether you have the domain that you're accessing right or wrong, it will come down significantly. Right, that is there. In the end is going to be your SOC or endpoint detection and response and manage detection and response, right? So this is basically Security Operations Center is basically one particular team. They are going to sit there, right? And they're going to monitor all the devices. right? In a SOC perspective, here is quite this particular approach is not that new, but it is getting more sophisticated as days are passing by. And people who are not aware of SOC, uh, think about in a Hollywood movie, right, where there is an attack is happening and the army generals are sitting in large room. There's a large screen out there where it is showing where attack is happening and how the process is going to go, right? A SOC center is exactly the same thing, but it is not for a defense purpose or a military purpose. It is for your organization, right? So for instance, let's say there's a DOS attack on one of the servers, right? What is a DOS attack? And an unusual amount of traffic that's coming out there. The team will have multiple large screen monitors usually where it will show the health of different devices on the network, right? For instance, let's say if you take an IBM campus, right, in one of the campuses where I live nearby, there are about 20,000 people working out there. And the amount of devices they would have connected there, amount of firewalls and everything will be very high, which becomes very difficult to manage individually. So they'll have a SOC team where it is monitoring all this kind of an activity. And they will see, okay, this particular server is getting more than unusual traffic. So they will investigate immediately. If there's a DOS attack, they will take necessary precautions for that. And if it is maybe a legitimate reason for that, they'll try to provision more network resources for that to make it more seamless, right? And it also, right, if you're working in an organization, they will tell don't connect any pen drives into your laptops or anything. But how do they monitor this? The SOC is going to do that for you, right? As soon as there is a pen drive connected, there is going to be a message sent from your system or your desktop or laptop to the SOC center telling us there is an alert. Someone is trying to transfer data to a removable device. Please take action, things like that. And that is when you'll get a phone call immediately from the team and asking you to take it out. And probably there could be a disciplinary action as well from the organization after that, right? In some cases, they will have a permission for that. There would be a written communication sent to the SOC team telling that the particular user is going to connect a pen drive on this particular time. So this alert can be neglected. So that is the process. You can see here in this history of security solutions, there's always a flow. And today it is not that, okay, today now the latest is SOC, we should only focus on SOC. All the thing has to be happening. And there's a multiple layer approach. You're physically locking the server, then putting it behind a firewall, then giving it antivirus protection. Then you're testing the server for any vulnerabilities, and you're, communicating with the employees and giving them awareness training about cybersecurity. And finally, you're going to monitor. Right. So monitoring is very, very important. And one example I give you is that recently a company got to know that they have been hacked, right? So they did I think one of the pen testing companies did an assessment for them, and they told there is a backdoor. They have been hacked for thing and that. And if you know, what do you think? How long the company has been hacked? Right. So a lot of people know. I do ask this question in my classes as well. So a lot of my students will tell, okay, I think probably they were hacked about 10 days back. Someone will tell 30 days. Someone will tell 60 days, this or that. In fact, that company was hacked 4 years back from the day it was recognized that they have been hacked. And the hacker has hacked them 4 years back, and he has continued that access with them. And he has continued to take data out of there, right? That company is a product-based company, and they're constantly not able to understand how is that the competitors come up with a similar product ahead of their time or are almost similar to their time, which is very similar to them, or sometimes with better features with that. And it is like they're completely not aware how is that their competitors are able to read their minds and what is happening out there. And they did a lot of activities on the employees, try to track employees as well, but they did not know that their network was hacked. Whatever the intellectual property they had, they were storing it in a server, and that server was compromised. Right. So that is why it is important to do monitoring as well and log analytics as well, which happens in this kind of a situation.
So,
Right.
Mr. Karthik, I have one
Yeah.
question. Uh,
Yes.
so, few years back, when there is no cloud was not there. Now, because of cloud, VPS
Yeah.
is become very cheap, right? Now,
Correct.
five. If you are considering 4 or 5 years before, when company was managing their own server on their own data center or on premises or inside their house, inside their offices, right
Correct.
now it is more, we are seeing that companies more uh, trained, like they are, it's because it's VPS and other public cloud is cheap, so they are using this kind of managed VPS, right?
Correct.
So do you think which is more secure compared to managing their own data center or physical server, or using the cheaper managed VPS, like provided by hostingers, GoDaddy, uh,
Yes. So
Vulter?
that is, there is no straightforward answer to that question, right? It depends on what you're securing out there. For instance, let's say you're a small organization, you have a data, but you don't have sufficient manpower. So you're not having any critical data. There's a data that is being used by you, and you don't have any critical data. And for you, it will be securing from an on-prem perspective, it is going to be very expensive, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
In cloud, we can use web application firewall where it is, let's say if you're a t-shirt manufacturing website, right, where you're selling t-shirts about 400 to 500 t-shirts. So having a WAF on cloud premises, it is going to be less impact for you in terms of financially, because they're going to charge you based on the traffic you're getting out there, right? Instead of that, if you go and pay for an WAF yourself physically and pay for that, the upfront cost is going to be very high, right? It
Hmm.
could be is similar to why people move to cloud environment is similar to the security as well. But when it goes beyond a certain point, beyond a critical point, it is critical, is much more critical. At that time, it is better to have much more in-house process to do
Okay.
that. Yeah. So one more thing is that, see, advantage of having an cloud-based security is that lot of the compliance requirement will be borne by the cloud provider. For instance, one of the is that to lock the server in a safe environment, right? So if you're a small company, you have to purchase and you have to rent an accommodation where you can put your server. Then you have to lock that server and things like that. But if you have a cloud provider, the Amazon cloud service is going to provide that security for you, right? So they have an understanding with the ISO 27 or any compliance part. They are going to provide the security for that. Because if you check out a lot of videos, the server farms where the cloud is put, their security is sometimes way higher than a lot of military bases you will see out there. They will have much more vigilante and things like vigilant for things like that. So it depends on what is that it is going to be required. So it is always we have to see what data we are storing. For instance, simple analogy I like to give is that, let's say you have a chocolate, you don't want your kids to eat it. So are you going to store it in a safe, or are you going to lock it in a refrigerator, right? Because it's chocolate, it's cheaper, it is not that important. You can keep them in the refrigerator. Keeping them in a safe may be an overkill. Similarly, for invaluable items,
Makes
it may be
sense.
expensive. Yeah. So same thing for that. So everything will come at a cost. Uh, Smaller organizations, it was ideal to go for a cloud service provider because it helps them out. Even because from my perspective, where I practice my pen testing and I work as a consultant, uh, we are more into pen testing. So we have a small team but we don't have any in-house servers for exactly the same reason. Because when the ISO 27 came in for compliance check, they had a huge list. Are you doing all these things? We told yes and gave them an Amazon AWS service level agreement where they're telling that this is being done by them. So it makes much more easier for them. So, but again, it comes down. So one more problem with cloud security is that let's say you're going to share your server with someone else, right? So how are you more comfortable with that? What if there may be two applications running on the same AWS server, which you are not aware? Amazon is aware of that, and one of that servers get compromised, and that lead to your server getting compromised? Those are the things that we need to take care. But from a majority perspective, cloud makes it much more easier for you to manage security, because otherwise it is the salaries that is going to affect, right? More than we have seen some organization, they'll be spending about $50,000 or $60,000 on the servers. Sometimes even few servers processor itself will cost about $20,000 for that, right? And they'll have 240 and 50. But a package they will give for a guy who's managing that server is going to be much more higher, right? If you take 2 years, server is going to be used for 7 to 8 years. And so the more on-premise devices you're going to have is going to cost you more. Yeah.
Guys, do you have any question?
Okay.
Okay.
So how do we find, bad actors find access to corporate system through social engineering, credential compromise, and environment variable, right? So one simple thing you can do, so most of the time your credentials is compromised one way or another. And one of the main reasons for that is that you are reusing your password in multiple places, right? So maybe if you have a LinkedIn account and you have a password for that, and same password maybe you're using in your Gmail or anything of that. So if your LinkedIn account is compromised and your password is leaked there, it could mean that same password I can use it, right? The username is going to remain out there. You would have used in Gmail email ID as username. All I have to do is come to Gmail and try to do that process, right? Or if I know about your behavior, if you logged into some other websites, right? Your Amazon also you may be using the same Gmail website, and the same password can be used as well out there. That is there. Just a small exercise. Probably most of you might be not knowing about this. Just check out a website called Have I Been Pawned, right? Check out this and put your email ID out here. Yeah, put your email ID out here and click on pawn or what, right? If you're getting a red signal out here, it means that your email ID is compromised somewhere in the attack that has happened in the previously. If you're getting a green, it's good. It means it is kind of a good. So it means that it all can also means that your account is compromised, but no one knows about it. But if you're getting a red, it is a good idea to change your passwords for this immediately. And if you scroll down, it will also tell where are the different places where your account was compromised, right? One of the places your account was compromised was in LinkedIn, my account, and Twitter, and very recently. And I think since exploit.in is something that basically I've used for my pen testing activity, I've registered there. They got compromised, and this is a photography app that was there. So these are different places that is there. And if your name comes up here, try to use the change your password for all the places and try to keep a different password for different. Try to have a similar pattern, but not completely similar, right? So you can see here number of websites they have collected this information from. 768 websites are compromised, and this is the number of accounts that are being compromised. Account user that is going to be there, and this information is from that. If they were, it is very much true. How it's credential-based approach of pen testing is there, right? So one of the solutions to overcome this kind of an attack is using multi-factor authentication, right? For phishing, as we told, security awareness training and email filters, right? There is a separate appliance where it will check for email and look for any malicious content out there, right? So it is automatically going to look for the size and what is the program that is attached file. Is it a program or what? And what are the things that is going to be there? Exploits are vulnerabilities that is there in your system, right? That this is one particular area where organizations don't have much control on, right? Whenever, let's say, I was working on a WAF application that was a built, in-house WAF. So we are running the WAF in our GCP cloud, right? It is running out there, and they suddenly we get a message from the GCP telling that you can't use the WAF anymore. You have a 48 hours window. After that, you have to stop using that WAF because that WAF is using a vulnerable version of Python. Right? Absolutely, we have no control about it because that code, the Python code, we don't have any control. Only thing that we can do is to install that Python code, right? So luckily, Python released an update for that security vulnerability by end of the day, and we were able to patch it, right? And we were able to fix that issue and continue on with our process. But if Python had taken more time than what is there given out there, we would have had to stop the service, right? This is one of the places, only way for an organization to fix the security bug is to update the software. And apart from that, they can't do much, most of the cases, right? In some cases, there's a configuration issue. We can make modifications to the configuration, make changes. But in this system kind of a vulnerability, only solution is to patch the system, right? So even after having a lot of things, lot of why we are seeing so high number of attacks, right? So we are moving away from the attack vectors and things. We're looking at the market and why certain processes are happening now from an outsider perspective, right? Whenever we see small and medium businesses don't take cybersecurity seriously, and in many cases, even the large organization, they don't take cybersecurity seriously, right? And they don't have security in place and things like that. That is one of the reasons why we see there's an increase in cyber attacks, right? And there is nothing called as a very small organization they're going to be hacked or not, nothing like that. We uh, we helped a company. It was a small chain of hotels. They hardly have 2 servers, nothing else is there, and they thought they cannot be hacked or anything. They got completely hacked and they were locked out of system, and they asked to pay ransom for that, for them to release the data. Luckily, even though it's a small organization, they had some outages in the past. So they had the option of backing up their data once in every 3 to 4 days time, right? Once in a week, they back up their data, and they restored their backups, and they lost about a week's amount of data, right? The reason why we went there was they got, even after restoring the data, they got hacked again, right? Because they were not aware they were supposed to update the system patches as well, right? How the hacker got into the system, they were not aware of that. So when we went there, we did a pen testing and saw that we could get in easily in that, and we showed them this is what is happening out there. So then after that, they are having a quarterly or once in 6 months approach to testing their network for that. So only a lot of these organizations are investing in cybersecurity only after they're being attacked out there. And before that, we don't see them working into this process at all, right? And this is not an official number, right? So 110 billion, that is an official number, meaning the amount of money lost by companies due to cyber attack in 2022. And it will be much higher in 2023 and even higher in 2024. It is going to be there. But this is an official number. So meaning the attacks that were disclosed and the amount of money that was spent on them. For instance, in Equifax, where the social security number was leaked, right? In that situation, they had a cybersecurity insurance about $100 million. They spent that $100 million after the attack on informing users that their account is compromised. They could not do anything else apart from that. So cyber attacks are very expensive. The amount of money lost is not always direct. It always has an other impact as well, loss of trust as well, right? So they might tell in terms of money lost in an account, what is there in that. For instance, and you could take about Target supermarket. They got hacked a couple of years back. They got hacked around the month of November, right? What happened because of that is that the attack was not something big. They lost about a couple of million users' credit card information. I know it's millions, not small, but it's compared to other attacks like Sony and things, they were a bit small. But it happened around the month of November. The timing was such that the people did not buy products from Target for that Christmas, right? And the most of the sales for any kind of a supermarket is going to happen around the month of Christmas because people are buying gifts and a lot of things. The impact was such that they had a widespread layoff all over the world. I think they laid off around 4,000 people in India alone. And the impact also was such that they had to close the Canadian operations as well. Right? They closed a lot of stores in Canada as well. And because they lost in billions of dollars in revenue. The hacker did not cause any kind of thing, but the publicity of that hack and the impact on public trust on that service was such that it hasn't much. This can be considered an indirect cost that is not recorded, right? So that is also taken into consideration, right? So what are the 5 stages? How do we companies should go into that? Is foundational security, right? How do you secure multi-factor, firewall, password managers and security, all those things that need to be wireless security and things like that. Wireless security, we should take it very seriously, right? One supermarket chain was compromised because a hacker sat in their parking lot, hacked their Wi-Fi, got into a till. From till he got into a regional server, and from there he went on to a much more higher server and compromised it, right? Policies and awareness, making people aware of things like that and all those things that is going to be there. And remote work education, getting your own device to the organization, using your mobile phone and things like that. That all those things we need to be taken into consideration, right? Bring your own device, BYOD, that's there. Asset management, patch management, how do you configure? You're using VPNs for when you're working remotely and things like that. That needs to be taken into consideration as well. And stage 4 is going to be incident planning and training and testing. What happens, right? What happens when an event occurs, right? When an event occurs, how are you going to do that, right? So this will be very much similar to what we call let's say in the aviation industry, right? Whenever there is, let's say the pilot is flying an aircraft and there is an issue, right? There's an engine failure. He has a certain amount of checklist that he has to perform. He has to go through a checklist. He has to do that. I think if you've seen the movie Scully, right, that where they landed the aircraft in an Hudson River. So when there is a bird hit, there's a sequence of steps that is done by them. Similarly, when you get hacked, right, there are sequence of things that is supposed to be done. There should be a pre-training should be conducted for that well in advance. and planning should be done, and it should also be tested as well, right? Once in a while, there is a drill similar to a fire drill when that occurs in a company or in an organization. A drill for cybersecurity incidents should also be taken into consideration, right? And finally, it is security monitoring. It is very much important these days. Small organizations, DevSecOps, DevOps is one of the reasons, right? Prometheus is one of the tools that we see where we can see the monitoring process can be done much more better way, right? So why companies are struggling in cybersecurity, right? So it could be they're prioritizing the business more about security, managing security at scale, right? So let's say you start as a small organization and you're able to work on certain things and you're growing. But as you're growing, you have a security for your initial phase. But as more servers are coming into play, that becomes much more difficult to manage at that time, right? So that is the major problem. One thing, second thing is lack of knowledge, and the fourth is targeted attack. No, lack of knowledge is very much prevalent. We are seeing a lot of our students are going for a lot of interviews. They are asking them, one of the questions they ask is that we don't have a security team. Can you come and start the practice? Can you help us build a security team and things like that, right? So what is the process flow for that and things like that? Because they all will have it usually, because this kind of an interviews directly, they go to the senior level managers are taking the first round, and then the developers are taking, and they're asking what is the security best practices, how we are going to implement in our organization, how we are going to work on it, right? So that is there. But one of the reason is failing is these challenges are specialized in. There is a lack of, right? Why companies are having a difficulty in hiring security professionals is there is a lack of talent available out there, right? It is quite difficult to get the security talent. Lot of the times we have to get someone inside and train it ourselves. This happened in real time for me. We had two positions, right? We have two positions out there, and we ended up interviewing almost around 1,000 candidates for that over a month of 6 months. In the end, we could not get a candidate of our choice. We took someone and we trained them in 2 months' time. It was easier to take someone with a little bit knowledge and eager to learn than hiring someone with that, right? So the problem was the candidate quality was very low most of the cases. And even in the cases where the candidate quality was good, by the time he could join our company, someone would have offered a much more higher pay, and they would have not able to join our company. That was difficulty, and that is happening in everywhere nowadays, right? I think you can check out with Menon as well. He will tell you that one of the things as a consultant, a lot of companies will approach consultants thinking we want security, guys out there. And we are seeing a lot of our students who are working. There is an market slow is there, but for security, that is not the case, right? There's still a lot of openings. They are constantly getting interview calls compared to that other place. These are students who come from other background, right? And in most of the cases in other fields of IT, they apply in a similar way, both for the previous job profiles as well as cybersecurity. The amount of interview calls they are landing per week for that particular security role is much higher than their traditional what they have in their IT background is, right? So, and this is the reason, right? Because of this, why there is a sudden shortage, right? There is an investment in cybersecurity is going significantly. You can see that 2017 to $120 billion was the market size for cybersecurity. Now it has gone up, right? $270 billion. By 2026, it is going there. and it is going to be a lot of issues, right? The main thing is that a lot of companies did not work on cybersecurity, and all of a sudden they're waking up and they want to invest in cybersecurity and the products that you're coming out there, right? Not only from a staffing perspective, from a product perspective, they're investing, they need more devices out there, right? Those are the things that come into play, right? Previously, there was no DOS prevention systems out there. It would have been in-house. IDPS has to be configured. Nowadays, you're getting a cloud-based services from Barracuda for that, and you're getting firewalls and things like that. All those things comes into play. But we are seeing for all these appliances, will need people to work on it, and organization companies are not able to find people working on that. And there is a significant reason why the market is going up is why people are investing cybersecurity is number of attacks have increased significantly. So people are a bit worried they might get attacked. But main reason I think is why companies are investing significantly in cybersecurity is compliance requirement, right? So what I have seen is that from 2021 onwards, a lot of people who come tell that they come up with their application, they want to be tested and things. The reason they're coming up is not from a security perspective. They don't want to protect the data or anything. It is basically that it tells that based on the industry I'm there, it is mandatory for me to get an assessment. Can you get this assessment done for us? Right. So for instance, if you're collecting your credit card information, the PCI DSS, payment card industry and digital transaction security should be there. There is a minimum requirement that you're supposed to get your application pen tested once in every 3 months. That is mandatory for that. They are supposed to have a security features. This is a team that should be there. There should be a SOC team out there. There should be a design team out there. There's a lot of requirements for that. And that is because of compliance. And not only because of compliance, a lot of businesses are not working with subcontractors if they're not security compliant, right? There was one company, a lot of startups also are focusing. So one startup came up to us and told, you have to test this application very fast. It's very important. And we told we are working on other applications. We'll start as early as possible, because they told no, because this is important, because we are in line with the merger, right? We are merging our product with some other company, and the company which is purchasing the shares want to know our security process, right? Is our company application data safe or not? That is how it's going to happen out there. Unfortunately, that deal did not go through because that application was highly insecure, right? So that application, we use it as a template for a lot of our people who are we train to show all the vulnerabilities that could be there in an application. That was the amount of vulnerabilities. And unfortunately, the deal did not go through. All right. So these are the things. This is the reason why companies are investing in cybersecurity. The compliance is main thing. It is very stringent, right? It is very stringent. Even there are certain cases where all I have to do there is that take my laptop, take an pen testing, hacker's Wi-Fi card will be there. It will check for certain things and scan for any open hotspots, right? So a certain time, a company's employees are not supposed to use hotspots on the company floor on their mobile phone. So that regular check is going to happen. All I have to do is that open there and check what are the open hotspots and correlate to which people they're using out there. Right. So there is amount of things that could be done is quite varying out. So one of the jobs market, right? So now we're thinking about so many appliances are there, so many security compliances requirement, different approach and different things that are there, right? So what are the different for all these things we need people, and all these things we are going to look at from a different perspective, right? The roles are going to be different. right? Digital forensic analyst investigators are basically a malware analysis, and they do whenever there's an attack or a malware attack, they'll go through, understand what exactly is happening out there and work on it, right? So whereas your pen testing application is where the current market, there's a huge demand for that. Whereas the SOC is basically, as we told, Security Operations Center, who is looking for alerts and things. And this person is only to monitor the devices. They will have something similar to Splunk is used, and there are a lot of other tools as well from RSA. Also is there where they get a lot of log, and this is basically SOC analyst is predominantly log analytics perspective, but here it is a bit different, right? Whereas the penetration tester is basically is going to hack the network, hack the servers from different variations to understand what is the security vulnerables in that. And application security is also hacking, but here it is confined to only web application, right? The other things that are there in the network, that is not going to be done. Like, for instance, most of my work is going to be around 95% of the time it is going to be web application and mobile applications. I don't work on anything else. Another 5% is infrastructure, where I'm testing firewall or other devices from a networking perspective, right? So finally, there is a defense, right? Cyber defense, that is people who manage your firewalls and IDPs. You might look at certain places, network security engineers, you might feel they are nothing but security engineers who are working on firewall, right? Network security basically deals about how do you manage a firewall, meaning how do you manage who can access your network and who can't access your network, and how do you secure the communication, right? For instance, let's say there's a remote working manager. He wants to come connect with the company server. So how do you make sure that communication between the two is secure? That is taken care by security engineers, network security engineers. So these are the most common jobs that is going to be there. And security architect, incident responders are predominantly, they will talk about whenever there is an attack, how do you go about that? That is going to be there. And security architect, right? Security architect, usually you see in a development environment, you see people with 7 to 8 years or even 9 years of experience on average getting into security architect, where they talk about how the application should be designed and those kind of scenario. A security architect is someone who is going to tell what are the security features that need to be added in a particular web application, right? Or an application for a network perspective. Where are you supposed to put a firewall, right? What is the password complexity, right? What is the length of password, right? So usually you might see there's an 8-character length password, an uppercase, lowercase, special character and a number. But from an architect perspective, what he will do is that, okay, for a normal user, 8-character is fine. But if you're having an administrative user, make sure he has a longer password, because a longer password takes more time to crack. So he's going to take those kind of decisions out there, right? And secure development managers are someone who's going to, that will look from a pen tester's perspective. And in the software development phase itself, they are in the different phases of software development. They are going to implement security, right? Similar to what a DevSecOps is basically about. That's going to be there. Malware analyst or reverse engineer, it is something very niche. It is not something we see a lot of people doing it. It is predominantly done by antivirus company. Whenever there's a new malware or new virus that comes into play, they are going to take that virus and try to analyze what's happening out there and how do we provide a solution or protection against that virus. And finally is the DevSecOps, CISO, Chief Information Security Officer position. So this guy is completely going to be, is similar to a CEO, Chief Executive Officer, but for the company IT infrastructure and security of this IT infrastructure. So all the major decisions that is going to be done will be done by this person from a security perspective. right? But one particular job, what we're not seeing in this latest surveys and things like that, is the job of DevSecOps engineer, right? It's a real dark horse, and there is a lot of openings that is coming up because a lot of companies are moving away from their traditional software development approach to DevOps, and they want to leverage this approach for security as well, right? DevSecOps is very much similar to DevOps. Only thing is that we are going to add some few additional stages to your DevOps operation perspective. You will use the same tools, Jenkins and GitHub and things like that, but you're doing some additional tools as well, like OWASP Zap for the, or TreeVT, yeah, a lot of other tools are there, sync and things like that for scanning for vulnerabilities. This is what we are seeing out there. That one of the two job profiles where we see our students getting a lot of hits is in the application pen testers and DevSecOps, right? So that is what we are seeing. And the average salaries is also high, right? And it is also increased in recent times, right? If you're seeing about a pen tester previously in 2020-21 was getting around $90,000 or 110, similar to that kind of a package, but we are seeing a significant hike in all the packages. In fact, in application penetration testers, the job profile is talent requirement is so difficult, right? So difficult to get a good quality pen testers. They are freshers who are getting an average about $90,000 in pen testers, and there are also cases where they're getting around $190,000 as well, right? For a fresher who's going to start based on the skill set, and it 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 is very difficult to get a good quality pen testers, and because as I told, we interviewed around close to 1,000. We did not touch. I think about 30 candidates, 978 candidates with interviewed. It's very difficult to get that information. Candidates who are that good at that, and you will see in pen testing. What I've seen is that the education requirement is also non-existing out there. So there are in software development, they will tell you should be an undergraduate in computer science, and there's a requirement for that, or masters in some situation. In pen testers, because such number of candidates available is so low, they're ready to even compromise basic college degree as well. Right, a lot of high school dropouts we have seen coming and joining who are good quality pen testers. I'm not telling that we're taking just anything. They may be a high school dropout, but they'll be phenomenally good at their job because they'll be doing the same thing again and again for a long time, right? And sometimes far better than master's level students. People have done their masters, and we are expecting the salary packages to go up for these roles as well, as more and more is going to be there. As I told, there will be a shortage of 3.5 million unfilled positions by 2026. 32, it is not a joke. I know it takes 6 months or more to find a candidate, right? For us, it did not happen at all because the market is so competitive for good quality cybersecurity professional. By the time you are in your put your papers, you're in your notice period. By the time you go and join, someone would have offered you a much more better package and things like that. And there's a huge demand that is happening out there. And main reason is there's a severe lack of knowledge. And how do you secure your network? When it comes to compliance, what is right and what is not right, how we should do it in a particular order or a process should be done. There's companies are struggling with that process. Not only that, so a lot of the cases, your SOC and incident response, they are able to train their in-house candidate and push into that. But when it comes to application security and DevSecOps, they are not able to do that. They have to get someone from the outside. They can't train already existing staff to do it. And that is actually driving the market up for them. Right. So I think any questions? That's it. Right. So any questions from this perspective? Right. The remaining 3 weeks, what we are going to see is going to be focusing on the pen testers and security consultant analyst roles, as well as from a cloud also we are going to cover up there. Right. So in the next class, we are going to look from an pen testers process. How do we a pen testers approach to that? How does it test? And how do we verify what is a vulnerability, what is CVSS score and things like that, and what are the most common vulnerabilities that are there. We'll look into that. And later we'll see in the next after that DevSecOps and how DevSecOps is changing the security posture as well, right? Why DevSecOps is important. And one of the reasons for DevSecOps gaining popularity is skill shortage as well. So we'll understand how that is going to be there. And finally, as we spoke earlier, we have a cloud, and how do we secure that cloud? What are the things that we can consider while managing a cloud? So security perspective for that. Right. So that is there. So please do check out for other webinars. It is going to be very informative. This is basically because what I have felt. So one of the reasons for me to get into training is because the problems I faced in interviewing candidates, 900 plus candidates. And it was not that I interviewed these candidates were not good enough intellectually. Most of the candidates were very good candidates. The problem with them was they don't know what to study, and they are spending most of the time on topics that is not useful for them, right? So if you look up our DevSecOps course, right, where we have an pen testing part into that as well. But we cover very little infrastructure pen testing, but we cover more about web application security, right? That's basically because most of the time you'll be working on web application. And for infrastructure security, there's a lot of scanners, automation tools that does a very good activity for you. Don't have to do a particular pen test for that. So we can prioritize out there. And these candidates who have come and failed, probably they're spending more time on topics like, Wi-Fi hacking and things like that, and infrastructure hacking of certain protocols that is not needed at all, that will not be used by the organization and things like that. That is there because they think they look at the people who are trying to sell the maximum amount of courses, and they will tell this is required. But when you look from an industry perspective, it is different, right? So because we had to reject, there is a certification called OSCP. It is an 24-hour hack exam. It's practical exam where you'll be given 5 missions to hack, and you're supposed to hack that, and only after that you'll be awarded the certificate. Candidates who have cleared that, it's a very difficult certificate, were not shortlisted because they were focused more on infrastructure. They spent about 6 to 7 months on infrastructure security, but they have no knowledge on web application, right? And how do we run an organization from an internal perspective? They don't have. So you will get a lot of information about that in week 2, week 3, and week 4 of that from an organization perspective. And most of the times, especially, it will be very useful for people who are going to work for a small or medium-sized organization. So I'm not talking in terms of companies, small companies. I'm talking in terms of size of the teams, right? You may be working on a team that is 20 people or 30 people or even 50 people. So how is that you're going to be part of it? How, as a security personnel, you're going to have an impact of that? You're going to look in those perspective in the remaining weeks, right? Today we spoke about security. What is security? What is a breach? but we are going to get into the nitty-gritty and then the juicier part in week 2, 3, and 4. Yeah. Any questions? Any questions till now?
Okay, so I think, guys, if you have any question, feel free to ask. I have a very small question to all of you. Like we are this time, this Saturday evening time is very odd time for IST. It is morning around 6:30 a.m. So are you guys even? Is it possible from the next week we can schedule the classes in Sunday? Are you guys available, or can you suggest which time is more comfortable for you? Is it Saturday evening like this time, or Monday morning? Sorry, Sunday morning.
I think Saturday evening will be better.
Okay. Anyone?
Yeah, I think Saturday evening
Yeah,
is good.
Saturday evening.
All of it Saturday evening. Okay, that's fine. So Saturday, can we start instead of 8 o'clock, maybe 9 p.m. Central Time or 10 p.m. Eastern Time? Is it a good time for you? Will it
Yes,
work?
that works for me. That works
What
for me.
time?
Instead of 8 p.m. Central Time, can we start from 9 p.m. Central Time or 10 p.m. Eastern Time?
10 p.m. Late. Okay.
No, it is a suggestion. It is not like you can. It is without all of your, confirmation. We're not going to change. So if you have issues, you can tell, because if you have issues, so there is a possibility other 100 students will face the same issues, right?
I mean, whatever time, 9 or 10, that's fine.
Okay,
Yes, for me to 10 p.m. Eastern works.
works. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, same here. 10 p.m. Eastern works.
Great, great. Maybe then next weekend we'll differ for 30 minutes or 1 hour. We can discuss in the group. You can suggest. I will create a poll. So those people are 9 or 10. You guys are, because we are available. We are trying to find out better timing which is more suitable for our US Americans or North America based students, as well as Asian Asia based or India based students as well. Okay then, guys, do you have any other question regarding training or courses? Feel free to ask. I think we are at the end of our session. If you don't have, then we can close. If you have, feel free to ask.
I have one question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. This question is to Kartik. Thanks for this insightful session. Appreciate you for your time. The question I want to ask is this, right? What do you think is better? I mean, focusing on maybe masters in cybersecurity and information assurance, or a shorter boot camp like this that's gonna like give you a more hands-on approach, or a more hands-on knowledge on cybersecurity. Because I looked at some cybersecurity courses and master's program, right, and they kind of have some, bogus curriculum that might not really be helpful for industry professionals, so to say.
Yes.
Right. So,
yes.
So what do you think is better?
Yes. Probably, I think masters is, first of all, from a price perspective, it is a lot, and the time is also much important because you'll be spending a lot of time on your masters as well. I would really not suggest masters at the moment because, as you say, right, a lot of organizations, a lot of universities that are giving masters does not add any industry level value to that, right? So only thing you can tell is that from an interview perspective, that I'm using this I've done my master's in cybersecurity. But what you're going to learn in that course is going to be very limited. And probably it would be a good idea to not go there, but rather focus on, it depends on what you're focusing on. So if you're looking at somewhere from a managerial role, and if you want to get in higher up to an chief information security officer in that particular pattern you're looking at, go for an CISSP certification. That adds much more better weightage than having a master's, is what I feel, what I see. Right.
Oh.
So your master's is going to only get you an interview, but it will not help you to clear the interview. That's the problem. And there's the main reason is the academy is bit disconnected with the cybersecurity, what is happening around. By the time I feel, because I have also done my master's, what I learned in my master's was not good enough to what I'm doing right now. So a lot of self-learning has to happen after that. Because once you go for an interview and they're asking completely different questions out there, and then you realize, okay, fine, that for that 1 year or 16 months, what you have been learning is useful, but that is going to useful from a principal perspective. But getting the work done, that is not going to have out there. Yeah. So I would suggest CISP is a very good. So if you go through the content, what they are giving, what they're teaching in those universities, and go through leading cybersecurity, certifications, they would have taken what is there in certification and rebranded in the university curriculum itself, right? And I'm not talking about top tier universities here. I'm talking about mid and low tier universities, where, because it is a good way to sell courses nowadays, right? Because there's a huge demand for cybersecurity, and if they brand something as cybersecurity, they will think people are joining there. That is happening out there, and there are certain courses where I've seen in some university, CIA itself is a one subject, and they cover something related to that. It would have taken about 1 or 2 chapters from Certified Ethical Hacker Manual and made a chapter or subject out of it and given out there. Right. So those things will be there, and they might teach you cyber security law and things which more detailed, and which may not be much more ideal for you. So try to go. I think I would suggest is to try to figure out, try to go with the courses and try to go with the certifications. And if that is not happening, then you can think about masters. But for you, the best option, what I would suggest is start using LinkedIn, start looking at the job profile. And when you look at the JD, you will see that there'll always be a certification requirement, and there'll be masters or anything. That requirement will not be there, right? Because for me, what I think is that certifications prove your knowledge, but it is the experience that proves your wisdom, and the organizations are looking for, from a wisdom perspective, people who can come to there and drive the team and help them get the security compliance and secure the network.
Right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Welcome. Any other question, guys?
Okay, then I don't think anyone has any other question. Guys, if you don't have, then we can go.
Can I ask, when is the next boot camp for the DevOps and cybersecurity? That's the main course. When is it starting? So I could plan for that.
Can you, are you asking, can you repeat your question one more time?
Not
asking for DevSecOps.
When
course.
when the main course is starting. Because right now I'm into DevOps, but I see that the DevSecOps thing is just what is required. So that's.
Yeah, so I'm giving you the timing for DevOps. DevOps is going to started in this Tuesday, like I think 23rd of April, and our Cybersecurity and DevSecOps classes is going to start the first week of May. Right, Mr. Karthik? You are mute.
Yes, around that time, first week of May, we are planning to start the next batch.
I'm talking about the evening CST time evening batch.
Yes, I think we have around another 2 weeks worth, 2.5 weeks for the current batch. After that, we'll be starting the next batch.
Okay, thank you.